6 weeks to the Milan City Marathon, 6th of April 2025, sub 250 goal. This is the final push, the last training block before showtime. There are 2 aspects which I will be working on in the next training block and 2 risks that I will try to minimize and avoid. Let's have a look together in full details, all the trainings for the next weeks and the reason why behind each training. Plus, I will share the results of some of the trainings that I've already executed. Welcome to the Running Engineer channel. I'm Fabio, Italian engineer living in Switzerland. I share my passion for running, training every day while working a full-time job with a family with 2 little girls, a lot of business travels. I share with you my running journey, all my trainings, the good, the bad, the ugly, full transparency and data-driven approach, because of course I'm an engineer. If you like my content, make sure to put the like button and subscribe. Let's go! The 2 aspects are maintain VO2 max and test marathon race. In the last 3 weeks training block, I was able to improve my VO2 max as I showed in this video in order to get my anaerobic threshold a bit faster, so I could attempt to run the sub 250 marathon at a pace of 3 minutes and 55 seconds per kilometer, more or less. For the next 5 weeks, the goal is not to improve, but to maintain VO2 max. Why? Because VO2 max is a bad beast. It takes just a few weeks of very specific, intense training to improve it, but at the same speed, you can lose your VO2 max if you don't keep training in zone 4 and give the right stimulus to your body. And you need to be careful, you don't want to overdo it. But for me, the next 5 weeks, I need to maintain this level of VO2 max in order to take it up to the 6th of April when I will be running the marathon. And the second aspect is marathon race test. I'm gonna run the famous super long runs, one long run of 35 kilometers and one long run of 38 kilometers, where I will be testing everything, from my underwear to the nutrition, hydration, you name it. It has to be exactly the same as the marathon day. And the 2 risks that I need to mitigate, tiredness and temperature. Tiredness means that I don't have to overdo the next training block. I'm in a good shape, I feel strong, so I could have the tendency to go faster than what is written in my training program. And that's a mistake. That's a mistake because I need to save energy in order to get to the marathon fresh and ready to perform at my best. So I need to block my brain, block my legs from overdoing it, keep calm and be patient. And the second one is the temperature. Milan, 6th of April, it could be already quite a hot day with temperatures rising probably up to 20 degrees. Whereas here in Zurich, apart from a few days where it looked like spring already, but the temperature was around like 12-14 degrees, winter is back. Today is the 14th of March, and for tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, we forecast as well a bit of snow. So temperature around 0 degrees and so on. So I need to make sure that I train properly in order to avoid suffering the higher temperature that will be in Milan. How am I gonna do that? I have no idea. It all depends on the weather, like jokes aside. So I will try to do more trainings in lunch break versus early in the morning when I like to train the most. So I can adapt my body already to a bit higher temperature, and hopefully the temperature will rise also in Zurich, so I will be able to adapt faster. But definitely this is a risk that I will try to mitigate, but I can't avoid. It all depends on the Zurich and the Milan weather. Let's have a look together at my training plan. The structure is exactly the same for all the weeks. Strength training on Monday, easy run on the Tuesdays, speed workout on the Wednesdays, easy or recovery run on the Thursdays, progression 1 on the Fridays, strength training or junk miles on the Saturdays, and very specific marathon trainings on the Sundays. Let's break it down each week, highlighting the most important trainings. First week from the 24th of February to the 2nd of March, intense week. 10 times 600 meters intervals with 400 meters recovery run at an easy zone 2 pace. So active, very active recovery. I'm doing that on the Thursday because I'm traveling on the Wednesday and I had to adapt my schedule. Easy progression on the Friday, only 5 kilometers progression after 15 kilometers of easy run, and then marathon specific training on the Sunday. 35 kilometers total, 10 kilometers at a pace of 4 minutes and 20 seconds per kilometer, 10 kilometers at 4:05, 10 kilometers at 4, and the last 5 kilometers at 3:55. The idea here is to be comfortable at all the paces. It's a slow progression in blocks of 10 kilometers. I need to feel an easy pace, sustainable for longer than the block in order to arrive at the end with a good amount of energy left in my tank. As I said before, I'm gonna test everything in this type of trainings, from my underwear to the nutrition, outfit, everything that you can imagine. Everything needs to be exactly the same as marathon day. No surprises. Second week from the 3rd to the 9th of March, less intense week than the one before. On Wednesday, I just have a fartlek, different minutes of duration and recovery, shorter progression on Friday with only 5 kilometers progression and 10 kilometers easy run. On Sunday, I have another very specific marathon test, but different. 10 times 400 meters at 3 minutes and 35 seconds per kilometer. Recovery 400 meters at 4 minutes and 5 seconds per kilometer. Hey coach, this is not a recovery, eh? 16 kilometers jumping between zone 3 and zone 4 and probably ending everything in zone 4 by the time I arrive at the last intervals. Why this type of training? Is to, again, get my body to adapt to run under stress for long and train my mind as well. So because here the recovery part is at 3:05, you will feel kind of easy to run at 4:05 versus like the 3:35 of the fast interval. So you also train your mind to get adapt. 10th to 16th of March, probably the most intense week ever. On Wednesday, 3 times, 1 kilometer at 4 minutes per kilometer, 1 kilometer at 3:50, 1 kilometer at 3:40, and then recovery 1 kilometer at 4:15. 12 kilometers total, super intense training. You see, I keep giving stimulus to the VO2 max, to the anaerobic threshold. As I said before, super important to not overdo that. Don't go faster than what is prescribed in order to maintain VO2 max and not add too much stress to my body. Friday, intense progression as well. 9 kilometers easy run, then 6 kilometers at 3:50 and 1 kilometer at 3:40. High volume, high quality. Sunday, the 16th, the final test. 38 kilometers. 13 kilometers at 4:30, 12 kilometers 4:05, 10 kilometers at 4 per kilometer, and the final 3 kilometers at 3:50. The idea to do a progression is, again, to add my body to run efficiently at marathon pace speed under stress and under fatigue, and at the same time do not put too much fatigue on my body. If I do a training like, I don't know, running 35 kilometers at marathon pace, 3:55, I could even do the marathon that day. It's too much on my body. You want to prepare your body for the marathon pace for 42 kilometers, but without adding too much stress. So that's the idea of starting slow, ramping up. So again, you adapt your body to run efficiently with a lot of kilometers in your muscle. Next week, 17th to the 23rd of March, easier week. Fartlek on the Wednesday, shorter progression on the Friday, and 21 kilometers on the Sunday. Here, the workout is different. So I do a lot of workout at exactly marathon pace, 3:55, with some kilometers of recovery and a total of 21 kilometers. You see like the logic behind that. If I have to run at a marathon pace, I can't do 30 kilometers, 35 kilometers. I need to reduce the duration of the training so I don't get tired. 5 kilometers, 3:55, and then 1 kilometer recovery, then 6 kilometers, 3:55, 1 kilometer recovery, and then 7 kilometers, 3:55, and 1 kilometer recovery. And by the way, there is no better way to celebrate my birthday on the 23rd of March with a very intense training. I love it. Last week of this training block, it still has some VO2 stimulus. On the Wednesday, 10 times 800 meters with the recovery of 400 meters. Easy progression on Friday. And then I would say from the Sunday with only 12 kilometers tempo run, we start the tapering. At the end of this training block, I will be only 1 week away from the Milan City Marathon. Now let's talk about the results of some of the trainings I've already done in this training block. Starting from the 2nd of March, the 35 kilometers long run at different speeds, it went incredibly well. 10 kilometers at 4:13 plus 10 kilometers 4 minutes per kilometer, 10 kilometers at 3:55, and 6 kilometers, I even did 1 kilometer more at 3:51. I felt really unstoppable. That was one of the best trainings of my life. Super happy about that, considering also the 0 degrees Celsius temperature of the day. I'm super proud of the splits and the heart rate as well. The first 10 kilometers, 146 beats per minute, then the 10 kilometers, 4 minutes per kilometer, 158. The next 10 kilometers, 3:55 pace, 164 beats per minute, and the final 6 kilometers where I pushed really hard, 3:51, 166 beats per minute. This is what I need to do on marathon day. This is perfect. As I mentioned in the video before, my sweet spot is around 165 beats per minute. If I stay below that, I know that I'm in full control. I'm in zone 3 and I can sustain that pace and that heart rate for the entire race. If I start getting into the 167, 168 region, I know that I'm going towards zone 4, and that is a problem because to me, today, it's not sustainable for an entire race. So I was really happy to see, especially the third block, the 3:55, which is my theoretical marathon pace, was at 164 beats per minute. Also, if you look at the distribution per kilometer, you see that at the end of the 3:55 block, I was around 165, 166. And then, of course, it went up, but because I was pushing much faster, right? 350 and so on. That's perfect. So if I am able to reproduce this performance on the marathon day, it's gonna be good. Sunday, the 9th of March, the famous 20 times 400 meters with essentially no recovery with another 400 meters, a total of 16 kilometers. I started this training a bit scared. It's a lot, and I was in doubt, you know, hey, can I sustain that for 20 intervals or not? And answer again was yes. I felt in control. I could have done more intervals. And actually, I had to slow down many of the intervals because I was going too fast. Do not get tired. Don't overdo it. You need to be fresh at marathon day. And if you look at some of the splits as well, I felt amazing. I mean, the legs were moving naturally. It has been a very beautiful run. Next challenging training, Wednesday, the 12th of March, the 3 times 1 kilometer 4, 1 kilometer 350, 1 kilometer 340, 1 kilometer 415. Also here, I felt in control all the time. Probably only the last one at 340 was a bit challenging, and I had again to slow down. This is a very, very good sign, right? When you don't think and you start going faster than expected, it means that, you know, your body is ready to perform, your body is in control at that pace, and you have more. And of course, I slow down for the same principle as the previous training to avoid accumulating too much fatigue on my body, on my legs, and also on my brain. Finally, today, Friday, the 14th of March, a good progression run. Unfortunately, the 6 kilometers at 350, I had a strong headwind against me, so the pace ended up at 3:55, but I can tell you, like, the effort was the 3:50 effort, and I could feel it. Still in control, still very good. I feel strong. I feel in a good place. I'm ready to perform on Sunday. So Sunday will be, you know, the final marathon test, 38 kilometers. I will test again everything. The only thing I cannot test is the upper body outfit. I will still have to wear long sleeves and so on because it's probably gonna snow here in Zurich on Sunday, but that won't stop me. This is my training program, 6 weeks to the Milan City Marathon, 6th of April 2025, sub 250 goal. If you like this content and you want to support me, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and follow me on Strava and Instagram. You find all the details in the description. Let's go!